working on in your Renatus business, whether it pertains to or relates to the topic I'm speaking about, it's totally fine. We'll just transition over to it and address that. Is more important to me than anything is getting value to you guys and bringing content that's important to you guys to help in your business. But in the meantime, of course, I've got a training designed for us, so we'll kick that off. Welcome. All right, I will quickly type in my cell phone number for those of you who don't have it, 760-533-3141. If you're listening in and you don't have your webinar and you're on the line, so 760-533-3141. That's my phone number, my personal cell. Feel free to call me. So yeah, Ron and I came up with, or Ron helped me, I guess, tagline this. But I was thinking about, you know, we get some amazing training. Like Michael yesterday, Christian on Thursday was awesome. If you're not tuning in every day, I think you're missing out. But these guys put a lot of effort into this, and they really bring a ton of value to us with what they're training on. And I thought maybe if with all this great leadership training that Michael is doing, all the great inspirational trainings that they're doing, we bring something a little bit to tie it in, which is the how. Like, how does this apply? All of the ways that you need to show up and the leadership qualities you want to develop and the personal development you're doing, let's apply that to our prospects, because our prospects is a daily, it's not something we wait to do. It's something we need to do, and we should be doing in our business every day, right? It's prospecting, or, you know, seeing the people, right? And so as you're developing personally, as you're developing as a business owner and a leader, and you're going about your life and you're in your learning curve with Renatus, which everybody has one, the best way to expedite that and to improve it and to capitalize on it is to act on it, and is to actually do the work, which is, you know, see the people and get them through the system. So we're going to talk about communicating all the way through from beginning to end. And I'll start out with, I'm going to go through cold market, warm market, and then the meeting. And then, of course, text messaging is pretty big right now. So I want to kind of address that. I get a lot of questions about text messages from my team. And then, of course, the follow-up, if we hopefully have enough time, we can carry on to next week if need to. As you all know, I use a Craigslist ad as often as possible. When I first started really re-engaging in Renatus after 5 years in 2016, I was placing a Craigslist ad every 2 weeks. The same one, just repeating it over and over and over again. It builds on itself. And I use that as one of my primary ways to market, as well as warm market and 3-foot rule. So those are my main marketing strategies. So first of all, I'm going to jump right into a call. All right. So good morning. Who's the Rockstar Mentor Stud? Oh, that was private. That's funny. So what we have is somebody calls up off your ad. Okay. Whether you've got, even if it's, you know, Facebook, we'll get into that. That's a little bit more warm market, cold market, but you know, a street sign, Indeed or a ZipRecruiter, something like that, you're going to get someone who's calling off an ad. And I'm not going to talk much about the ads and the posture and all that stuff. I'm going to talk about the communication. So, and Michael's talks about listening all the time and things like that, really listening to what they're saying. So, right off the bat, we qualify for time. So we know that, is now a good time to talk as you call them back or whatever the case is. But as I start to talk to them, a lot of times, I'll set the stage. So they call up, hey, and I'll call them back. I never answer, right? I'm always in this office right here with a pad of paper. And that's what it looks like. I should put it out on the share board, but anyway, it is, I write people's names and numbers down. I write the time, and then I'll say, hey, this is Bill. You called off my ad on Craigslist about real estate investing. I'll remind them who I am. And then, oh yeah, I remember. And of course, is now a good time? Yep. You got a few minutes? Okay, great. So let me ask you this, and I dive right in, right? There's no pause or anything. I'm controlling the conversation. Let me ask you this. What is it you do right now? What is it you've been doing? What's got you into real estate? Why did you call off my ad? What did you like best about the ad? And you've heard me say this before, but I'll ask 3 or 4 questions. They can choose whichever one they want to answer. And so their mind is kind of moving all over the place, and it distracts from their initial thought, which is what, you guys? Their initial thought is simply, hey, tell me about this ad. Hey, what are you offering? What is it I need to do? Well, what's your job? What's your, what's the catch? How much does it cost? Whatever their preconceived questions are that they're ready to ask you, you've already asked them 4 or 5 questions right off the bat. Listen, as soon as you have a command, it draws attention. So, hey, notice. If you see a sign that says notice, stop, warning, caution, those are all commands that grab our attention and pattern interrupt. They interrupt our thought process, and they make us pay attention to what's about to come after that. It's instinctive, and it's programmed from when we were a baby. So listen, and then I ask several questions, and then I just go ahead and I actually do listen myself, just like Michael said yesterday, right? I pay attention to what it is that they are saying, but I'm listening specifically for something that is intriguing, that is important. So they might say, well, I've been doing this for this long, and I graduated high school and college, and I had this, and I just moved here from somewhere. They're gonna kind of give you a background, and that information is not that important. Not when this call is 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, this is an appointment setting call. You have one objective, right? You have one outcome desired that you want, which is to get them to say yes to go to the next event. You're building for an event. So what I'm looking for is, anything that says, I've always wanted to get started in real estate. I always thought you could make money in real estate. I tried real estate before, or, my family's done it. Anything that pertains to my ad, something in my ad. I've always wanted to make a lot of money. I think $10,000 a month is easy to make, or, anything that's pertaining to anything in my ad, I'm listening for. And then I literally, as soon as I hear it, I may even interrupt, because I don't need to listen for 15 minutes about them answering one of my questions, right? So I may interrupt a little bit. I'm like, exactly, right? And I compliment. I'm like, that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly what I was looking for. I totally understand what you mean by wanting to get into real estate, because you can make money. Now, right there, I've just found what it is that related them to my ad that I can compliment and I can start to talk about. So as soon as I compliment, what is it? I'll say something like, hey, I totally get it. When I was looking to get into real estate too, I knew that you could make money in real estate. I just didn't know how. So I know exactly how you feel. Let me ask you this. And then I go right into another question. So there's no time for them to respond to what I just said about acknowledging their great breakthrough, right? Which was, whatever it is they want to do in real estate, why they like the ad. So then I'll ask them a question. You're telling me, and I'll remind them, you told me that, you've got a degree, and then you got this great job, and you've got 4 kids and whatever they're telling you. And then I say, you also mentioned that you've always known about real estate, and that you could make great money in it. Are you doing any real estate right now? No. Have you done any real estate before? No. Okay. Let me ask you this then. What do you think is holding you back? What is creating the issue? Like, obviously you probably read a book, you might have gone to a seminar, you might have, seen some podcasts, some advertising on Facebook and stuff like that. And you're starting to dive into real estate. What's keeping you from getting a deal done? What's keeping you from making an offer? Well, I just don't know. I don't know exactly what I need to do. I need to be around the right people. That's why I liked your ad. It said, you've got a local team and you're looking for team members to help walk them through the process. And again, they just created a problem, right? They just told me what's not working. I don't need to go any further, right? Now I'll elaborate a little bit, but right there, I may interrupt again, or I may wait for the second I can step in again, and I can compliment them again. You know what? Now this is it, guys. Right here, Step 2 comes in, which is tell a story. So as soon as they say something, now I typically use my own story, but you're going to want to know everybody else's stories. This isn't a training on, I mean, that's a full 1 hour, 2 hour training at a Super Saturday, or a person, or, you know, one of your team trainings, where we talk about telling the story. But as soon as they say, you know, hey, I just, you know, I've studied some books, you know, I've done this, I've done that. And, you know, in fact, I've already got some offers out there, but I really feel like I'm missing something. You know, I called off this 800 number. I bought this program. I thought about, you know, a little bit here and there, but something's missing, and it's the community. I'll be like, you know, exactly, the community, huh? I said, you're looking, you know, you want someone that's going to, I don't know, maybe someone that's been there and done that and that you could work with, right? If we all had someone in our family that was doing real estate, we'd just hang on to them, wouldn't we? Oh yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Exactly. So you think if, and you feel, and probably just like I did, that if maybe you could get around some people that are doing this, you know, and spend some time and kind of have a go-to coach, if you will, that might be able to help you, and you had some good education as a resource for you, that perhaps you'd be a little bit more successful or might be able to get a deal done. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, that's exactly it, you know, and they might elaborate. I'm like, you know what? And then I'll tell a story. As soon as I solve the problem, I tell a story, right? You know, I'll tell you what, my friend John O'Neill, you know, back in the day when he got started in real estate, you know, he was a laborer, right? So he was a general contractor, and then he was roofing houses. And I'll tell John O'Neill's story, and I'll just explain, you know, and this was just off the spur of the moment. That might not be the exact story for this guy, but you get my point. And I'll say, you know, when he started, you know, he responded to an ad like this, a street sign, and went to, you know, got involved with a group just like we're talking about. And, you know, in his first 10 months, he flipped his first house and made 37 grand, whatever it is. And so I'll tell a story. Usually I use my own story because obviously I have a story about real estate. So I can relate to them at any time in my story about what they're going through. So, you know, I'll talk about when I got started, I responded to an ad just like this. Right. And, you know, I didn't know anything about real estate. I was looking around. I had heard that you could make great money. And I'll reiterate a lot of the things that they said. I'll relate exactly my story to their story. And I'll say, you know, what I did is I saw an ad just like this. And I call on the ad, and I found out that there was a way that I could work with other people that had already been there, done that could show me the way, as well as get me in the right resources to do real estate. And in my first year, you know, I flipped 13 houses. And I made 190 grand. And how does that sound to you? It's like, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? You know, and I'll relate. And then I ask another question. As soon as they agree with me, I'm like, listen, so if I could show you exactly what it is that I do, you know, now that I'm doing it and how we do it, would you want to also learn how you could do it with yourself as well as with us? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, great. So let me ask you, what's your email? And what's your last name? And I don't say, hey, let me get your email, or I need to get your email for this reason. It's just it's just a smooth transition. It's just a natural question. Great, listen. So Tom, what's your last name? All right, great. Spell that for me. Cool. And what's your email? Awesome. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. Do you like text, or do you like email preferred, or you like text? I mean, is it easier for me to just text you the address? Yeah, great. Okay. And then I'll just text them the address and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to go through a whole scenario right now, you know, if there's some objections on the phone. I'm not saying a Craigslist ad call is that easy. Okay. A lot of times, you guys, it is for me. I mean, it isn't complicated. We simply want to control the conversation through questions, right? But I use the same question every single time. It is routine. There's nothing anybody can say on an ad or on a street sign, whether they're calling for, you know, making money in business or making money in real estate, that is any different. They're calling for the same reasons, and they all have the same story, but there's something that's holding them back. The minute that something is explained to you, what's holding them back, you now have a solution, a problem that you can solve with the Renata solution. And the way you solve a problem is not by telling them how to solve it, but by telling a story, giving an example of someone who was just like them that then went on to do something with our group, right? And then once you say, how does that sound to you? And you get confirmation that that sounds good to them, then you just book them to the event. Now they might have another question or two, and we'll get into that in a minute. Now, a couple things I want to talk to you guys about on the call, right? On the people that are calling off an ad is, number one is I judge just like everybody, right? In fact, the other day I wrote down, this guy called me best message ever, right? He left me a message that was right off a script on the type of person I want to work with. Then I talked to him, and I even told him, like, dude, I loved your message. So right off the bat, you know, you're exactly what I'm looking for. Let's get to business, you know. And we had a great conversation. I booked him that day for the event. He didn't show up. Okay. So he texted, which is good. And he said, hey, I'll catch up with you soon. And I invited him the next day, and I'll get to text in a minute. But anyway, there's other people that are like, you know, how much does this cost? And, you know, I've been down this road before, and they've got complaints, and they're asking more questions, and they're not saying the right things. They're in an employee mindset. And we're thinking, you know what? This isn't going to work. Wrong person. Cannot do that. We cannot. That girl the other day, last week on the call, on the webinar, on the national webinar on Monday night, that did the testimony, she said something, and she said something in relation to that. And she just said, there was no preconceived notion of anybody that needed to, that in any way, shape, or form that fit the bill, right? She was just going to share with anybody and everybody, no matter what her thoughts. Like, you know, the minute we see, we judge, no matter what. And the more we talk, and then when we start to engage a conversation with somebody, we judge again, whether or not we think that they need it, they want it, they should have it, what reasons they need it, what anything like that. But she just goes in blindly, and as long as she shares the message and offers any type of, and she, you even heard her, she said, I offer get out of debt, invest in real estate, own a business, pay less in taxes, all of the things that we offer, grow wealth, self-development, blah, 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 blah. Anything, if she just throws it all up there, and if one of them sticks on that person, they're in, right? And they can come to the meeting. So in any marketing, we don't want to judge any of the Craigslist folks or cold market leads. Just continue to book them no matter what your thoughts are, no matter how many questions, no matter how hard they are to get through to get the email. Now, when we move into warm market, I get this a lot, and if you have any questions on cold market, because I'm trying to get through a couple different things, but I want to make sure that it's clear, so that you can actually apply some of this stuff in your weekly conversations. Every time that I tell a fact, right? When I solve a problem, when I answer a question at all, even if it's with a question. For example, if someone says, you know, what's a good example? So if someone on a Craigslist call says, you know, yeah, that's awesome. You know, let me tell you, I've been down the road before, and you know, I'm not really interested in paying for anything. I've done that. I've been to, you know, I've already got this, you know, this education, you know, and they're not, it's not because I said something. I'm just saying if they're saying this to me, right? They're just letting me know where they are and what they're looking for. And so they're like, you know, I'm just looking for someone that can mentor me and, you know, maybe help me get a contract. If I could just get my first deal, you know, or just really understand how to write the contract, then I know I can get the deals done, because I'm finding the leads. You know, I'm doing this and that and that other thing, right? And at that time, I'll be like, yeah, exactly. You know, I totally know what you mean. You know, we have the ability with our community for you to learn from other people, you know, and really engage in what it is that they're doing, so you can kind of relate to them. You'll get their phone number and stuff like that, right? So I'll kind of answer their doubt. But then right after that, I tell a story. So I move them from a fact into a dream. I move them from a fact into I guess a dream, a thought process where they're starting to picture this story, and they picture themselves in the story, right? So if I say, you know, I've been working with this guy, Kevin, he was brand new. He's coming out of the insurance industry. And, just like you, had some experience in real estate, but it wasn't great. He made some mistakes. He did some guru programs, which is all good. It's got good education, but something was missing. The timing was right. He wasn't taught the market, and he lost. So he was real scared about, or not scared, but just real turned off by real estate. So he starts to get working with us, and within a few months, he's got this deal that came to him through the community and through our group of investors. It's just an amazing group. You're going to love this when you join, right? I'm going to get to that in a minute, you guys. So Kevin went ahead and he called me and he said, "Hey, Bill, would you could I take you to lunch? Could you walk this property? I got this property. It's my first bigger rehab that I've done, and I've never done it before in this case, and I really like you to walk it with me and kind of give me your opinion." So I walked the property with him for over an hour, and then we went to lunch and talked about it, and I listened to what he thought and everything. Now, wouldn't you think that would be a great way to help you through your transaction as you're wholesaling? If you could just call somebody up that you met and just they could walk you through since they've done it so many times. Oh yeah, that would be fantastic. That's exactly what I'm looking for, right? And so all the fact that I told before and our whole conversation, that guy's picturing himself being Kevin walking through this scenario, and that's what he's looking for. And that story sells him to the building of the next event. And it makes sense for him to come, or her, to come to the next event or the first event based on those stories. And that's it. And then I'm done again. And I go right back to, great. What did you say your last name is, Tom? I couldn't hear it on the voicemail when you left me. Was it Tom Miller? Yeah. Okay, with 2 L's. Cool. Hey, Tom, and your email? What's your email? All right, cool. Listen, I'm going to text you the, go ahead and write this. Well, you don't have to worry about writing it down. I'm going to text you the address. I'll have it so you can click on it. You'll get there. I'll see you Thursday night at 7. Come a little early if you want. I'll introduce you to a couple people, but, you and I'll be able to hook up. And then what we'll do is when it's over, you and I'll get together afterwards and just chat it up a little bit and see how we can get working together right away. So again, when we're talking with warm market and the same rules, they all apply, right? The same rules. Now you're going to get, I get this a lot. And I think everybody, we all do this. Now I want to preface this for those of you who don't know me, you guys. I used to talk to people, and essentially, I swear to God, folks, back in the day when I was doing marketing, and then I took the 5 years off, but when I was doing marketing, even as a retail, I wasn't building a team really. I didn't engage fully enough. I didn't commit. I didn't have those 4 core beliefs. I was missing a lot of things. I was doing real estate, as y'all know. That was my goal. That was my mission, and I was missing the boat with the marketing. But I remember when I did market and I did have people on the line, I would just talk until they walked off the phone. In fact, there's time I can remember doing almost an entire presentation over the phone, walking up back and forth in front of my window, overlooking my pool, and just completely selling them on the opportunity and selling them right out of the opportunity in the same phone conversation. And it's just common. So all of these mistakes that we make, if you want to call them that, trials and errors, learning curves, we all go through it, right? Now, the difference this time is I'm more driven. I'm more on purpose. I'm paying attention to every single phone call. I'm on every single training. I've been doing my own team call. I mean, I just committed 110%, more so in the marketing than I did to my actual real estate over the last 2.5 years. And that commitment, that listening to whomever is training, they've got something to say and something to bring to the table. They wouldn't be on that call. And paying attention when I'm on those training calls, at the trainings, at the meetings, at the Super Saturdays, at the events, on calls like this and webinars and such. So anyway, when it comes to warm market, I hear this a lot. And that is, we want to offer up something. We want to give. We want to share. We want to impress upon. And it's natural. It's okay. We don't receive that way, right? The person we're trying to give to does not receive, right? And so we have this idea of why they should do this, how it will benefit them, what parts of it they need, whether it's the real estate or the velocity banking, the credit repair, the personal development, the camaraderie, the leadership. We teach all of these things. We build all of these characteristics in humans and in business and entrepreneurs that come through Renatus over time and through the education. And so we know how powerful it is. We know how good it is. Even if we're new, we've been told how good it is, even if we haven't experienced it yet. So we want to impress this upon our friends, family, colleagues, anybody and everybody we come into contact with that becomes a warm market at meetups or whatever. So here's the deal. In doing so, it does not work very well. The same rules need to apply to our warm market as our cold market when it comes to creating intrigue and solving a problem and qualifying for time and being able to share this information the right way. That's why traction marketing is so beneficial and so can't even think of the word, works so well, where you're not using any commands or any call to action. There's no DM or PM. There's no, let me know if you're involved, if you want to get started. Let me know if you want to try it out. Let me know if you kind of come to the tour. There's no call to action. It's simply you telling your story, right? And then when people decide that it's time for them to ask, they will ask. And it becomes about them. It becomes their idea. You've heard me say this before. You want it to be their idea to come to the meeting. So in a warm market, there has to be intrigue. So what you're looking for on purpose is anything that's missing in their life that you already know, because you already want to tell them about it. But we can't tell them about it. We have to have them realize it. We have to have them have a moment of understanding on their own through the questions you're asking and the stories you're telling, right? And so what I'm getting at is, let me see, when I'm working with a friend of mine, Sean. Okay, so I'm trying to think of one that just recently closed, like Sarah. She's a warm market, and a couple others. Let's see. Let's see. So when I'm talking to a warm market individual, and I want to invite them, for example, the number one thing that I need to do is that I'm trying to do is talk to them about what's going on in their world, right? So if I'm doing it, I'm doing it on purpose. So let me think. If I'm going to actually contact somebody specifically, okay, here's one. I got one. So I reached out to my buddy Martin, and I said, "Hey, Martin," I sent him an email. I talked to him about it on text, and then I sent him an email, and I said, "Hey, I know you and I have been working together because he and I have done some deals together." And I was like, "You know what? This is what I told him. I can't believe I haven't." I go, "Please forgive me that I haven't invited you to actually see this information." I go, I can't believe I didn't think of this sooner. But it is, what I do, you got to see this. And I don't ever use, you guys, you have to, you should, I want, none of those things. I develop what I call foreshadowing, pre-assumption, or most importantly, future pacing. I got future pacing from one of my personal development mentors that I've paid over $10,000 to in personal development over the last few years, over the last 10 years with him. And future pacing is simply letting them know what's going to happen in the future by telling them what's going to happen. So in this email, I was like, you're really going to love this information. I know that you and I work together, and I'm sure that you have always wondered, where it is I got my education from, or how I, got into doing so many flips, and you're kind of on the back burner on the passive side of the investment and stuff. And I know that you've gotten educated in, and I'll compliment it. You're such a great day trader, and you obviously have been learning this over 15 years, and, I compliment what he's doing. And then I'm sure that you have also been intrigued about the real estate and wondering, how would you be able to do a little bit more? And perhaps there's other things you could be doing. Well, I'm selfish for not sharing this information with you sooner. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you the opportunity to go ahead and take a look at this information. Let me know when you're ready for it, when you wanted me to send you over the however I made the offer. But my point was, I made it about them, and I made it their decision by saying things like, I'm sure that you've thought about this, and forgive me for not already bringing it up with you. But I know that you have seen what it is that I do and are probably curious about what it is, how I learned how to do it. Something to that effect. I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to get to it more in text here in a minute. We want to create intrigue, and we all know that when we talk to warm market, we've heard Michael talk about it in Christian all the time, is in all your other trainings, right? You've got that question, hey, I just learned, you've got the opening, right? But when I'm having conversation with them and they haven't shown up yet, and they're not unfamiliar with what I do and stuff like that. They know that I'm a part of this, or that you're a part of it, and you're still working with them. I constantly drip on them through stories, right? So like with Sean, I see him on a regular basis. We're working together in real estate, and he's planning on getting started. He's been to a meeting, but I'll tell stories, and he sees what's going on, and I'll tell other stories that he doesn't see about other people in the group, right? And I'm creating intrigue. And then I always ask a question, when do you want to get started in paying down, talking about your mortgage, we've talked about it. He's like, well, I thought about doing that, right? And so I'm constantly asking questions that are intriguing to him, but I'm not saying, hey, do you want to come to the meeting again? I'm not saying, hey, do you want to come to a property tour? I'll let him know I'm having one. Hey, what are you doing Saturday? Oh, I'm hosting another tour. I don't even ask him to go. One time he came to a tour not too long ago, and he's like, hey man, I'll come with you, just because he had nothing to do, right? And it's just building that time frame, building that relationship on another level, not just the relationship level we have. All right. Remember, if you guys have any questions, you can type them in. So this is going to be important. This next step, we might have to move this into a 2-step training. I hope this is beneficial. And if it's not, I need to know so I can give you guys more details. I'm trying to get through some of it, and maybe I'll just break it up in a couple trainings, obviously. And here's the deal. Texts are pretty cool. Texts are pretty key. And I get this a lot from, and I'm going to go back to warm market in a minute, or maybe next week then, but on this text message, right? The number one thing is I don't answer a text message I don't answer a question, right? And here, I always foreshadow. And what I mean by that, and for future pace, is I constantly tell people when you get started, right? I use the terms when you get started, when you become a part of our community, once you get the education, and once we find the funding for you and you get started, once you're part of the community, you're going to love this when you see this. You're going to love this when you're doing this. This is exactly how it's going to be for you. Right? I use all of these terms, these little phrases in my text, right? And then if there's a question about something, hey, I just need to help getting funded, or I just, I need to know, what is it going to cost me if I, if this, or I'm trying to think of some of the questions that my guys bring to me all the time. Oh, I know. So one the other day was, I just want to get through, I've already bought this education. I just want to get through it. I haven't dove into it that much. And, I really like what I see over there, but I've got to, I don't need to spend any more money. I've got to apply myself to this other information, right? So the first thing is, how do you respond to that? Thank you, Hera. I really appreciate that. So our first thoughts are, let's respond, right? And when I see a text, I wait, and I have to be in a position, in a state of mind, right? I like to get in state where I'm ready to respond to that text. And I got to respond with a question. I got to control the conversation. The other thing is, I can't have a conversation in text. You have to have a conversation on the phone. This is a people business. So every time I have a text conversation, I'm going to move them to a call, right? I'm going to move them to a one-on-one, or I'm going to move them to the next event. I have to, because that's where I'm going to get the most benefit from me asking questions and controlling conversation and providing solutions, and then asking for the sale or asking for, their agreement that they're ready to get started, if we can find the money kind of thing. So in a text, I'm going to say, hey, that's a great question. I totally understand where you're coming from. When is a good time to talk? There's too much to text. Now, what I did say to this gentleman on this text is I let him know you've got to get in a conversation. And my response to this thought process for this gentleman is always a question. And this question was, hey, listen, and I was telling my guy this, so I'm going to go through it with you guys on how to respond to this guy through conversation. And what it is like, if we think about it, and this guy's saying, hey, I got this education. I've already paid for it. It's rich dad stuff. And I've got to get through this first. My first thing is, hey, can we go back to why you replied to my ad in the first place, right? Why are you looking in the first place? Oh, well, I was talking about the community. I was looking for someone for a coach, kind of, right? So they're going to go back to why they responded. And then it's like, okay, you're going to acknowledge it. Hey, I totally get it. So in your education, as you're moving through this and what you're doing already, I go, what's missing? What is not working? Well, it's this, that, and the other thing. Well, but I don't feel there's benefit. And then here's my thought process with this guy. Like, listen, you have this education. You spent $5,000, $3,000, $2,000, $10,000, whatever you spent on it, right? And you're going to go through this for a month, a week, a year, 6 months. How long is it going to take where all of this is missing and it doesn't work, right? Like, if we buy something and it's the wrong thing and we start to use it, like it's the wrong software, or I can't remember the analogy I used. I think we were talking about cars, and you're like, you buy a car and then you can't utilize the fuel efficiency correctly. You're not going to continue to use the car when the fuel efficiency that you bought it for isn't working. You're going to take it back to the dealer and you're going to say, hey, listen, I'm not getting the mileage I wanted, or the electric isn't lasting as long as it should. I need to fix it. And I need to make it, we never told you, but you have to buy this extra battery, or you have to buy this new, exhaust system to really create the benefit, right? And then you're going to add to it to get what it is that you wanted. And so with this guy, if he's got this education and it's not working, and he's, no matter how long he plugs in it, if everything's missing, it doesn't make any sense, because look at the time and money it's costing him to do this. And we've got to do that through questions and make him realize it's his idea, right? Where as we're asking questions, and if I'm having this conversation with this guy, I'm like, how long do you want to go before? And I might even say that because then it's my idea. I might even say, have you thought about how long you would go through your education before you're fed up with it not working? Like, what's it gonna take for you to decide when you're ready to, enhance the education you already have by getting started with our community, right? Or our systems. Well, and he's gonna give an answer, right? And I'm gonna say, have you thought about what it might cost you to go down this road where you're not getting deals done, things aren't really coming together, you called the 800 number and it really doesn't work, but you don't feel like you've given it enough chance, but you've got an opportunity where it would work, and you're going to pass on that, right? So I'm starting to create a conversation about questions about what it is that he's telling me as to why he was looking in the first place, because what he's got isn't working. I hope that makes sense. In text message, we always are going to get texts from people that have been to meetings, right? And it's easier for them to send an objection, maybe opt out, or decide not to through text than it is face-to-face, right? There's no emotion. It's really easy to, shoot you, well, I just really don't have the money right now. The timing isn't right. I don't have 20 grand. I didn't know it was going to be a sales thing. I thought it was going to be more coaching, right? There's all these things, and we want to respond, right? And if you have them, you can bring them next week and I'll respond to them as if I'm talking to you, the prospect. But our instinct is to react and respond. And if we're going to respond, we got to respond with a question. And we have to acknowledge in the text, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I can see how you got that. And then I always go, let me ask you this. If I could share with you how it's not that way, right? if there's a way for me to help you understand clearly how we're not worried about coming up with the money right now. I'm just trying to create value. Would that be worth a conversation? In any type of text message, when I acknowledge what they're saying, I want to get them on the phone so that I can communicate through questions versus a text, right? But like I said before, in any of my text messages and even talking to my warm market, I'm always reminding them and letting them know when they get started. Hey, once you get started with us, once you see the education, you're going to love this when you see this in the tax and legal class. As soon as you watch this class, it's going to be incredible. And then I go on to tell the story, right? When you meet Bill, you're going to be blown away by X, Y, and Z. When you meet Michael, and then you tell his story a little bit, you're going to love him right from the beginning, or you're going to want to be just like him, or whatever it is. And you start to let them imagine what it's going to be like when they move forward. Everything, I'm future pacing them. I'm letting them know that what it's going to be like when they're joining. So I'm assuming that they're going to be joining. I'm assuming that they're going to be enrolling. I'm assuming that they're going to have the money. Don't worry about the money. As soon as you get the money, it's going to be the best thing you ever did getting started. You're going to feel great about this investment. So here's what we're going to do is the number one thing we need to do is sit down and just literally go through the 10 ways that we can fund this. I'm going to share with you a few ideas of some of the other ways people have funded it before. So you'll have lots of choices and things like that. I'll leave you guys with a couple things. Number one is every time I'm at the meeting or any one-on-one or any group, I always ask folks this, right? So right off the bat, the first question after the meeting is, what did you like best? If they watch the webinar, we all know that. What did you like the best? And I give 3 examples, right? The real estate, the community, the velocity banking, or all of it, right? Oh yeah, kind of liked everything. I'm blown away. Yeah. What did you, and then as Michael says, it'll be like, okay, we need to get you, in front of more of that information, don't we? Right? So we all know that. But at the end, when I'm leaving and I'm set up this one-on-one for the next day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to call you at this time. And then we're going to set up a meeting for this time next week or whatever it's going to be, the one-on-one, and we're going to move them to the property tour. And then we're going to set up the one-on-one after that. I always say this, I'm assuming they're getting started. I say, listen, start thinking of the ways that you would think you could fund this education, right? Don't worry about it. I'm going to go over all of it with you. We've got ways that we can help you get funded. You don't have to do it on your own, but I really want you to start to think about, so you have a couple ideas of how, if you had to, and your life depended on what would you do to fund the education, and we'll work through that as well. Okay, I always leave people with that right off the bat. No matter if it's their first time and they're from Craigslist and they have no interest at all, other than what they just told me they're interested. You know what I mean? But they have no idea how they would ever get 20 grand. I always leave them with the fact that they should start to think about. And then in my very first meeting with them, again, right after that, the first question out of my mouth is, have you thought about any of the ways that you're going to fund this? Or what are the ways you've thought about that you could fund the education? And again, I go, right, but don't worry, we're going to go through it ourselves, but I'm assuming you've thought about how you come up with 20 grand, right? I mean, naturally they are, but it's easier to, I want them to tell me what it is, right? I want them to be the ones that are going to tell me how they want to fund, and then we'll work through it, because they might know how to fund, or they might know how they want to do it, but they don't know how to do it, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down again for next week, kind of recap a little bit, and then I'm going to get into the meeting and most importantly, the follow-up, and we'll go through a little bit more of warm market invite and more text messaging. Well, not too much more on text messaging, just because text messaging, like I said, you guys, I use text message for this. Appointments, addresses, confirmation. Oh, here's a couple things. I'll leave you with this. It's 9 o'clock. You guys too, is I don't thank people. I do say, hey, great to meet you, but hey, thanks for being there last night. Thanks for showing up. It's not like that. It was great to meet you. I always say things like, I'm sure you got a lot of value out of it. I'm sure you appreciated coming to the event. I'm sure you loved what you saw. I'm sure that you've got a few questions about what you saw, but most importantly, you're excited about getting started. These are my text message intros, right? When I'm texting them the next day, even if they didn't show up. Oh my God, I'm sure you loved it. or it's like, oh my God, I didn't get to see you there. Something crazy must have come up for you to miss this, right? I mean, just obnoxious little text, but it's just the truth. I'm assuming they're just like me and they absolutely loved it and they absolutely got a kick out of it and they're interested and they've got a few questions and they want to get started and they're just looking for the money. That's my assumption right away all the time, and I let them know that by saying it. And I'm not like, hey, thanks for being here. Hey, you know, it was so great to meet you. I'm really glad I got to know you. I'm really glad you called my ad. None of those things are going in my text or my conversations, right? Naturally, I'm feeling those things, but the benefit was them to us. It wasn't the other way around. Okay. So, so with that, I guess we'll wrap up. Yeah, it's 9:02. I got to respect your time. I appreciate everybody being here. We're back down to 56 people. So, one last time. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's Patricia from
You're
California.
so welcome.
Appreciate
Thanks
all
for
this.
being on the call. Absolutely, you guys. My cell phone number is 760-533-3141.
You're awesome,
cool.
Joe.
Hey man, thanks. I appreciate it, you guys. I really do. I really love talking to you guys and sharing this information. I love your questions, and you guys are awesome. You guys are killing it. So keep it up. If there's anything I can do personally for anybody, you know, you can reach out to me. So otherwise, make it a great day. Go get something done. Have a great week. We got a lot of time before the next meetings. Thanks, Dennis and Hera and Amy. You guys are awesome. Melissa, woo, Ulilani, you're awesome. Cool, everybody. Have a great day. Make it great. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all. All right. Boom shakalaka. I'm going to end the meeting. Stop recording.